Would you eat your dog? Would you eat your cat? Would you eat your horse? Would you eat your cow? Would you eat your pig? Would you eat your alligator? So today I want to talk about the question, is it moral and ethical to eat meat? And I know it's a very controversial thing to talk about. So let me just start by saying that I am not a vegetarian and I'm not a vegan. So a lot of what I'm going to say you might disagree with, but I think it's true from my perspective. And maybe even objectively true. So when we think about this question, when we think about moral questions generally and ethical questions, we need to think about three areas. The first area is need, the second is want, and the third is harm. So obviously, people, like all animals, need to ingest food to survive. And the second part, I'm not sure what other animals find tasty, but we want to eat tasty things. And what we find tasty is often cultural, but we do have things that kind of biologically we are drawn to. So sweet things, salty things, fatty things, because those would be the things that would sustain us in nature, right? Then there's the harm aspect, and I think that's the crux of this argument because clearly our needs and our wants are causing harm if we are eating meat. And I think that this whole conversation in maybe two, three, 4 generations is going to seem very archaic. We are going to look back on this time, or our descendants are going to look back on this time and consider us to be very barbaric. That's kind of like a sci-fi trope where, you know, the crew from the spaceship comes back to our time and they are horrified to find that people are still eating meat. And I think it's a trope because it will be true. We'll find technologies that will enable us not to consume the flesh of dead animals. We can talk about a little bit of that, more on that later, but I think the reason that currently a lot of vegans get hate is, and vegetarians to a lesser extent, is because they're right, right? They have the moral clarity. It is wrong to inflict suffering on an animal if you don't need to. And what's worse is that we've kind of shielded ourselves in the society from the suffering of the animals that we consume. And we just say, oh, it's always been this way, so it must be right. So we kind of make this appeal to tradition and appeal to nature. Um, you know, uh, on the other hand, though, I think currently it is extremely difficult to live a vegan life because, you can get all of the nutrients and vitamins and minerals that you need, but it's kind of like having a doctorate, and you can't go to every place and have a vegan meal. They'll give you some salad. It's getting better, but not by much. And the same thing to be a vegetarian. And what I think will happen is that this moral debate will fade away when the technology progresses. And maybe I'll come back to that in a moment. But I think that most people don't have the time to care about being a vegan or being a vegetarian. It's easier to eat meat because you have all of this, you have a limited space in your brain for everything that you need to do, like work, your friends, your family, take care of your health, exercise, find some intellectual stimulation, keep your brain active. You have a limited time for that. And not everybody's going to make like being a vegetarian or a vegan part of that. And clearly, I haven't done that. But I do think they're right. And I think that this moral debate, like, I think that people think that slavery was defeated by moral debates. Slavery was defeated by two things. In the United States, it was defeated by political violence, and generally in the world, it was defeated by advancing technology, like the cotton ginny, I think, destroyed the need for having so much slave labor, and industrialization and farm equipment removed the need to have so much physical farm labor, and that removed the need to have slavery. I'm not sure if it was ever a need, but it was there. And, there was a civil war in the United States that was fought to end slavery, and it did. So I think, though, that when we talk about meat and meat eating, I think that these technologies are going to advance to such a point that we are going to stop eating, let's say, natural meat without even knowing it, because they're doing this thing. And I don't like the labels that they're using, and I understand why they're using it, but they're lab grown meat. I think 10 years ago was like $1 million a burger, and it's getting less and less expensive. And I think eventually they'll just do the McDonald's 100% beef thing, where they'll make like some 100% real meat. Basically, they'll make a copyright, and you'll go to Arby's or whatever, and it won't be real beef. I mean, it will be real beef, but it won't be real beef. So, and I think because the costs are really high now, once it gets to be cheaper than this whole industrial farming thing that we have, it will stop. And I I think it will start with meats that are kind of processed now, like ground beef, ground turkey, ground chicken, those kind of things. And I'm not sure how you would actually make a steak taste good as an artificial meat, but I think that they'll get there eventually. And then they'll replace those two. And then then people will be shocked, and then people will just kind of accept it, right? Or maybe they won't. Maybe there'll be like these people who will be like walking down the grocery aisles and saying, "Oh my god, it's artificial meat." Um, but as long and I don't know. I think that the technology is in early stages now, so maybe it will turn out to be unhealthy, but or maybe it won't. Probably it won't, because basically, as far as I understand the technology, they're just replicating cells, which is not uh, anything unnatural. Those cells would do it anyway. And people say, well, I heard some weird thing like, oh, basically you're eating a tumor. I'm like, no, no, tumors are different, I guess. Less tasty. So, yeah, personally, I don't care as long as it tastes good and it's not going to kill me. I would eat the artificial meat. And I think that's why this whole debate will become irrelevant eventually with technology because people will be eating artificial meat and it will be so normal that they'll kind of eventually be disgusted by, you know, real meat. Real meat. Copyright. I don't know. So I think that will take a bunch of generations. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there's any example where that's happened. Um, it's not the best example, but marshmallows. I don't like marshmallows, but I've seen some people who try to recreate the original recipe for marshmallows. So, marshmallow is like this plant, I guess, from a marsh, and it has like this sticky sort of consistency. So, they made the natural version and they compared it with our version, which is just made of sugar. And that version, the sugar version, won. So I think there's probably multiple examples of that where we kind of progress and we accept the artificial one more than we accept the real one. One, it's a cost thing, and the other thing is just a taste thing. Maybe another example would be crab legs. So crabs are pretty expensive. So when you go into the store or you go to a sushi place, generally, if you have some crab legs or crab, maybe not meat specifically, but you know, those kind of like white with the pink one, I think that they're, or pinkish strip, those are made with tuna because it's cheaper. So you can see like one the tastes change and also there's this pressure to make things cheaper. So I think that will happen with artificial meat as well. And so I guess my conclusion is that yes, it is immoral to eat meat, but people are going to do it because they don't have the time to be morally virtuous about that. But I think technology is going to catch up to a point where it will be easier and easier to be morally virtuous, plus cheaper and more economically feasible. And that's why people will choose that option. And I don't think that people will ever stop eating meat, but I think, you know, instead of it being, I don't know how much it is for a steak right now, but instead of it being, let's say, $20 for a steak, it will be 500 or $1,000 for a steak. So people will still eat it, but yeah, rich people will eat it as sort of a luxury thing, and maybe that will be another thing that we resent about rich people in the future. But one kind of crazy thing that this artificial meat debate kind of reminded me of is that you could have any kind of meat that you want. Right now, we're kind of limited by industrial agriculture by having, you know, people used to eat a lot of different animals, and now basically they eat, at least in Europe, in North America, they eat pigs, cows, and chicken. But other peoples, they eat pigs, cows, chicken, sheep, goats, horses, dog. But you could have all of those animals without actually killing the animal. Like, I would never want to actually eat a dog. No, 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 no. I don't want to do that. But an artificial dog meat burger? Sure. Let me try that once. You know, just once. And maybe it's the most delicious thing ever, but I wouldn't never go to natural dogs. So that would be an advantage of that. And even you could have a situation where you eat a human burger. I don't think I would ever try that, honestly. Just some taboos I wouldn't go for. Um, all right. So if So let's talk about one more thing, which would be what happens in the meantime, because this technology, as I said, could take like 4 generations to perfect. So I think my crazy idea is that as long as the animal has lived a very happy life, I don't think, and you know, you kill the animal at the end of its kind of life, like you give the animal like intellectual stimulation, it exercises, it has friends. Did you know that cows can do the zoomies? They can. So if a cow gets a chance to do the zoomies, I don't see a problem eating it. Because if there was some alien species that decided they really like eating humans, and they gave me like the ability to live with my family and not have to worry about money and make all the videos that I wanted and read all the books that I wanted to do, and they said, okay, you know, when you're like 72, that's a good time to harvest you because your meat is really ripe. Would you agree to that? And I'd be like, yes, I would agree to that. But maybe other people wouldn't. But I mean, you can give people a choice. I'm not sure how you give a cow a choice. So you give the cow the best possible life it can have. That would be one thing. The second thing would be to take a picture of the cow, name the cow, and put it on the steak package. So when you go and you buy it, you could be like, this is Jessica the cow. She had an amazing life. She loved to do the zoomies. She'll be delicious. And then you can eat her. Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I worry about me. All right, what do you think about this debate? Do you think it's moral and ethical to eat meat? To recap, I don't think it is, but I understand that it's something that people will be doing for some time until the technology catches up. But what do you think? Do you think that it's unethical to eat meat? Leave your thoughts in the comment section where it belongs. That's why it's called the comment section, so you can comment there. And if you like what I do, please subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.